Go ahead.
During the
When you're ready.
Hello, my name is Lilia Cardin,
Shreya Sharma.
Alex Colvin.
and today we will talk about the research question, are desalination plants a viable solution for global water scarcity? Water, one of the fundamental building blocks of all life on Earth. In fact, I might go home after this presentation and take a nice shower in fresh, clean water. Unfortunately, not everybody in the world has this luxury, and that's a result of global water scarcity.
Water scarcity is a prevailing global issue which will only worsen because according to a research report by ecologist manager Rashad Danoun, only 2.53% of all water on Earth is actually drinkable. Many places in especially third world countries do not have access to drinkable water, and therefore the solution of a desalination plant has been offered.
So desalination plants take seawater and convert it into usable water, and this is done by running the seawater through a film to take out unwanted materials and chemicals. Recently, countries have showed renewed interest in this technology, since over the past 6 years, according to the International Desalination Association, 4,000 desalination plants have been built, and mostly coming from the Middle East. Additionally, new research is being conducted every day to improve the efficiency and reduce the cost of these plants. With recent investments and global interest in desalination, this begs the question,
Whether desalination is truly a long-term solution for global water scarcity. Based on analyzing factors within our research, we have concluded that no, desalination is not a potential solution for global water scarcity due to desalination costs, its capabilities to meet increasing water consumption demands, and its surprising impacts. It is also important to note that throughout this presentation, you will hear this technology be referred to as both desalination and desalinization. These terms describe the same technology, and variations are used by experts around the world in various geographical locations.
so desalination is costly in both the environment and economic perspective. So environmentally, to start using a desalination plant, first they must retrieve the water, and this has a profound effect on the environment because creatures are sucked in and various plant forms are sucked into the tube, which kills them. And some people argue that by taking seawater in from cold and deep locations, this might minimize the effect, but it still has an effect on the food chain, and it still changes what's happening. Additionally, the runoff chemicals from desalination, such as carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitric oxide, are emitted into the atmosphere, which also has a negative impact. From the economic perspective, it takes 14 years to plan and construct a plant, as shown in the Carlsbad desalination plant, and it also costs roughly around $1 billion, which is much more expensive than other methods. And even after this hefty price tag for building the plant, it still costs over double traditional methods to obtain usable water.
So we have to, in order to decide if we want to use a desalination plant, we have to also check what benefits it would bring, and if it could keep up with the water demand. Our research has shown that in many countries that a desalination plant will simply not be able to keep up with the demand for water. For example, desalinated water would increase water price in Carlsbad from $5 to $7 per household. More than that, many of these desalination plants can only supply so much, and in the Middle East, only 50% of fresh water is being supplied. Furthermore, Avram Tene from Israel's desalination engineer states that desalination is actually the last process to helping people get fresh water, because another solution, such as using fresh water from sewage systems and recycling it has actually been able to recycle 86% of fresh water. Desalination has some surprising impacts, which include high energy requirements, which needed for desalination. High energy requirements needed for desalination contribute greenhouse gases into the air, and these also affect other freshwater sources around them, therefore creating an even smaller place to get water. Furthermore, the last step of the process of desalination is actually arguably the most affecting process of the entire project, because the saltine brine, which comes out from the water after it's been separated, it affects it actually gets dumped back into the sea, which changes oxidation levels and also causes a rise in temperature, which greatly affects the animals and other living things inside, and changes obviously the food chain. So our technology needs to improve that, and the technology is actually decades away from minimizing these impacts, and furthermore, even more than that, desalination plants are huge, and they're a great which makes them targets for attack during warfare. However, there are some exceptions to these cases, because as we've seen, many countries have actually implemented these, and some have actually gotten benefits from them.
So despite these consequences of desalination, there are various countries who have adopted the technology rapidly. One of these countries is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the leading country in desalination technology, and as a result, they have invested in building a solar-powered desalination plant to reduce carbon emissions and its overall greenhouse gas footprint. Now, it's important to know that Saudi Arabia invests in desalination largely because they want to keep their own water supply in check. By being able to control their own water supply, they do not have to rely on other countries, and since they are one of the major exporters of oil, they can then control their own oil prices. Saudi Arabia is also a country that faces major water scarcity, similarly to Australia. Australia is another country that has heavily invested in desalination. In fact, a social study done by Dr. Tanya King from the National Center of Excellence in Desalination has concluded that over 50% of the population supports desalination as a viable solution for their freshwater scarcity, and a majority of their population actually feels comfortable drinking the fresh water. Now, when analyzing the question, is it a global solution, we have to consider that both of these nations have one thing in common. They are currently facing global water scarcity. Other places, such as the United States, Europe, and Canada, aren't facing similar issues. In fact, in the 1990s, California built a desalination plant in Santa Barbara that took 5 years in construction to build. By the time they built the plant, they had already found a newly fresh water supply that could replace the desalination plant, forcing them to close. Now that California is facing a current water scarcity crisis, they have reopened the plant. But overall, it is not a very popular technology within the United States. In fact, most newspapers in even California refer to desalination water as exotic water or a California thing, completely disregarding the technology as a viable solution for desalination. As a result, there have been many protests against the technology. It is due to the fact that not everywhere in the world faces a global water scarcity that desalination is actually currently only a solution to a few countries' water scarcity problems. But what if desalination could improve on its costs, could meet increasing water demand, and could eliminate some of its overarching impacts? Desalination plants would have to decrease costs, increase desalination plant efficiency, reduce its environmental handprint, and establish additional infrastructure before it can be accepted as a global solution to water scarcity. Overall, we have concluded that desalination is not a viable solution for water scarcity, and that when you take your next sip of water, you remember that you may be the next one who may not be able to have access to such a valuable water supply. Thank you. Here is our images bibliography.
You're at 10:20. Okay. Who's got questions?
I have the oral defense
10:20
question.
is okay, right?
Can I ask him the oral defense question?
You may.
Alright.
Say a name and ask
I
a
know.
question. Okay.
Alex, how did the group decide to include, sorry, this is confusing. Describe how the content of the team's presentation was changed as a result of group discussion.
So I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Would one of you like to answer?
Yeah, sure. Actually, the economic effects might actually bring in benefits in the long run, but in order to stay with our claim that desalination plants are actually not a good solution in the long run, we had to omit that information.
Alright. And Treya, going to you, even though you just answered it. Reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem your group identified?
I think Lily's perspective actually, and social perspective actually showed like different needs and it showed like various perspectives, and it basically divided the earth on how many countries need desalination plants versus those that don't, and that really impacted our solution to the problem.
Lilia, what is an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided to exclude from your team presentation, and why?
Well, some of the most interesting concepts behind desalination is actually the technology behind desalination, which Alex included in his argument. There's various membrane technologies where salt water is actually filtered through a membrane to eliminate pollutants. Unfortunately, as we mentioned in our presentation, they're very inefficient and require a lot of energy. However, researchers, as Alex mentioned in his paper from MIT, have concluded that they can construct single carbon atom membranes that would not only speed up the process but also increase efficiency. The issue with this is that they take a lot of time to construct, almost as much time as the desalination plant itself, which is a drawback to the overall argument.
Alex, would you like a second try?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Alright. What is the way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research?
I don't like these questions. Could you repeat the question real quick?
Alright. What is the way which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research?
So, from the technological perspective, I guess, in the long run, and for economic in the long run, it's better. Since I had to kind of say how it's not a very good immediate, it doesn't have a very good immediate effect because people are going to have a lack of water within the next couple of decades, and the technology is only expected to improve within the next 50 years.
You guys want me to go through all the questions?
No,
No.
we're done.